I retired officially at 55, but moved to Porto in 2021 with remote work. I sold everything I owned 4 years earlier and left the United States. In this video, I'd like to share my experience, what I got right, what took me by surprise, and if I would make the same choice again, given what I know now. First, let's clarify what sold everything means. People might envision a dramatic moment, but it was actually quite mundane. I had a long-term, rent-stabilized apartment in New York City, which I had called home for over 7 years. For anyone who has lived in New York, you understand that a rent-stabilized apartment is a significant piece of one's life, almost an heirloom. Parting with mine was a weighty decision, filled with both loss and relief as I stood in that empty apartment one last time. I sold all my furniture over 3 months with the aim to travel as lightly as possible. I kept a few meaningful personal items, trinkets, and memories, but intentionally left behind a safety net of possessions residing in storage. I wanted to fully commit to this new chapter. As I released my belongings, I learned that the attachments were often to a version of myself that owned them, rather than the objects themselves. Once I grasped that, the letting go became easier. However, the fear that accompanied such a move is unlike anything I had anticipated. It wasn't just fear of the unknown, it was the fear of making an irrevocable decision. My life had looked fine from the outside, complete with a comfortable New York apartment and routine. There were moments in my final weeks when I doubted whether I was making a giant mistake, replaying that mental calculation repeatedly without certainty. That feeling of uncertainty lingered until the day of departure. You don't get a clear moment of confidence before you leap. You just decide and go. That fear is a sign that you're embarking on something real. The first 90 days in my new surroundings were eye-opening, especially the change in pace. Coming from the hustle of New York, I found it strange, yet refreshing, that life moved slower. In a cafe, I discovered that I could take my time without the usual subtle pressure to leave. I could enjoy a leisurely coffee and read a book, something I hadn't experienced in so long. Shopping at the local supermarket led to genuine conversations with staff in English and Spanish, which was surprising and heartwarming. Speaking Spanish eased the transition and made me feel less isolated. But the tougher moments were real. The holiday season initially felt lonely, as I lacked a new circle of friends. I remember walking through beautifully decorated streets, feeling a sense of disconnection, a loneliness that arose not from being in a bad place, but from being in a lovely place alone. It took much longer than I anticipated to feel that Porto was truly home, not just a temporary stop. As for practical advice, I learned that opening a local bank account wasn't as straightforward as I thought. It required a NIF tax number and residency permit at the time of applying, but the process has changed since then. Thankfully, my Capital One card, which waived international ATM fees, saved me from financial strain during that waiting period. If you're considering a similar move, be sure to obtain a no-fee international card before your departure to avoid any stress. What truly surprised me was not just a sense of freedom, but a newfound clarity. The chaos of fast-paced city life faded, allowing me to reconnect with myself in a way I didn't realize I needed. There was an extraordinary calmness that followed the removal of constant noise and pressure. Additionally, as a member of Generation X, I found it vital to carve out a lifestyle that aligned with my desires: good coffee, walkable neighborhoods, and tasty food, without feeling rushed. This real, unhurried life is entirely achievable if you're willing to seek it out. Would I do it all again? Absolutely. Not because it was easy, but because it was profoundly worthwhile. The version of me that handed back those keys in New York made the right decision, and now I fully recognize that truth.